You are listening to the Last Hour News on YouTube. Tonight, we're looking at a crucial election that's under threat of foreign meddling, plus a massive aerial assault that's escalating a really brutal war. And at the same time, gold is hitting a historic high, while two superpowers are trying to navigate a pretty fragile economic truce. Welcome to our Explainer. We're going to break down the day's key events and the underlying theme of liberty that connects them, all based on a daily review of global politics and economic freedom.
Okay, let's dive into this. But first, check out this number. It's shaking up global markets. And later on, we'll explain exactly why this has the world talking.
Our first stop is Europe, where you've got two nations fighting for their sovereignty in very, very different ways. And this just brilliantly illustrates the contrast, doesn't it? Moldova is defending its future through elections, while Ukraine has to defend its very existence through war. So in Moldova, voters are really pushing for a future that's aligned with Europe, and they're trying to resist what the source we're looking at calls coercive pressures from larger states.
Meanwhile, at the same time, Ukraine faced this just devastating aerial assault. It's a stark reminder of the immense human and economic cost of state-led aggression.
You know, the review we're drawing from frames these conflicts through a really specific lens, arguing that these kinds of state actions impose incredibly heavy burdens on individuals.
All right, let's shift gears and see how all this global instability is reflected in the economy. And that brings us right back to that staggering number we saw a minute ago. That's right. Gold surged to a record $3,760 per ounce, a price we haven't seen in decades. Now, what's really interesting about this is just the sheer scale of the rally, a 43% jump this year alone. It's all being driven by uncertainty. So, why gold? Well, the source suggests that it reflects a growing distrust in government-controlled fiat currencies. You know, the money that can lose value because of inflation and policy decisions. And here's the crucial point. The source interprets this not just as some market trend, but as individuals trying to protect their own wealth from government control. Okay, shifting from the markets over to policy. Economic tensions are also front and center in talks between the world's two biggest economies.
So U.S. and Chinese officials met to discuss these key friction points. And while there weren't any major concessions, just keeping the conversation going is a really critical step. And from the source's viewpoint, these talks are a big opportunity to reduce trade barriers, which it sees as government roadblocks to the economic freedom of individuals and businesses.
And for our last stop, our global snapshot turns to the Middle East, where these long-running tensions just continue to simmer.
Recent developments are continuing to fuel regional instability, and the source we're reviewing attributes this to a cycle of interventionist policies that ultimately infringe on individual rights.
And this is where the source material argues for a non-interventionist approach. It suggests that true security really comes from voluntary association, not from perpetual conflict.
So, the crucial point that connects all of these stories, from the elections and the war to gold prices and those trade talks, is a really fundamental tension. It's the tension between the actions of states, waging wars, influencing elections, and controlling economies, and the basic drive for individual and economic freedom.
And that leaves us with a final, pretty provocative thought to consider as we watch all these global events unfold. This is the Last Hour News on YouTube. Please like and subscribe. Thanks to your support.